Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is stress, actually pressure. Today's topic is pressure. And before we get started, let's just take a minute to settle in and get present. So let's take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold it and fill your lungs with that wonderful oxygen, that vital life energy. And as you exhale any tension in your shoulders and your neck, your jaw, throughout your body, and just allow yourself to relax. And then let's take another deep breath in through your nose. Hold it and imagine that it's just sparkling light coursing through your veins and into all your cells and beyond your body into the ethers to connect you with the rest of the world with bright, vibrant light. And as you exhale any remaining tension and just allow yourself to relax into this moment. And now let's place our palms gently together and softly rub your fingers against your palms to feel the tingling and the tickling in your fingers and your palms and how delicious that is, and allow yourself to become present right here, right now. And welcome. I just want to say thanks so much for being here. Today we're going to talk about pressure. And I can bet that pretty much every one of us has had an experience of feeling pressured, feeling the pressure of the demands of life, and sometimes feeling pressured by others and pressured by circumstance. And I just want to take today to talk about what this pressure is. Like, does it really exist? And if so, where's it coming from? So the experience of pressure feels like tension, feels like panic a little bit. And how do we generate that experience for ourselves? Before I jump into talking about how we generate pressure, I want to say good morning to Ibrahim from Palestine. Oh my gosh, from Bethlehem. Wonderful. Wonderful to have you, Ibrahim. Thank you so much for joining us. And Dido, thank you so much for joining us, and everybody else who's here today. It's really awesome to be sharing this time together. And I really, really appreciate your being here with me. So we're talking about pressure and how that happens. So oftentimes the thing that might generate be tied with an experience of pressure for ourselves is all the commitments and obligations and responsibilities that we have, and feeling like we don't have enough time, and telling ourselves that we don't have enough time. Good afternoon, Hope. Good morning from the U.S. and good afternoon to you. Thanks so much for being here. So we're talking about pressure. And how do we create an experience of pressure for ourselves, and then consequently, how do we mediate or remediate an experience of pressure? And the way that I've seen myself generate pressure in my experience is by having internal conversations like, I don't have enough time, I have so much to do, there's a million things, I can't get everything done, and we can go on and on and on from there. And if I don't do this, this and this and this is going to happen. And it is just really an internal conversation that accelerates this feeling of stress and tension and scarcity of time, scarcity of resources. And the way that we can mitigate or reorient ourselves when we're experiencing this experience of pressure is, ironically, or in a counterintuitive way, to just stop for a minute, because what happens is we work ourselves into a frenzy, and then this pressure can make our blood pressure rise, can make incredible tension in our bodies, can disrupt our digestive processes. So what we can do is just stop in that moment when we're feeling that frenzy, in spite of the fact that we feel like I don't have time to stop. We get to stop and take some deep breaths deeply into your belly, and then as you inhale, allow your belly to extend with the air that you're filling it up with. And then as you exhale, let your belly collapse in as you're expelling that energy. And by just taking a few deep breaths, you get to calm that conversation, because you have to be focusing on the breaths instead of the panic. And then you get to revisit the things that we're saying to ourselves. So when we're feeling that pressure, we can't do everything at once. So we get to say, what is the most important thing to do in this moment? And we get to do that thing. And we put one foot in front of another and another and another. So by bringing ourselves to our breath, we bring ourselves more to presence. And as we bring ourselves more to presence, we have more volition. We have more opportunity to make choices that are life affirming. And there are many things oftentimes that we believe are critically important, which in truth, when we assess those things, they can wait and they're maybe not as important. And we pile on all these things we have to do, and the notion of have to do creates an urgency and again a sense sometimes of feeling subject to, or at the effect of, or as victimized by. And Ibrahim says, in my opinion, pressure comes from repeating the same habits that don't serve us or don't make us close to the goals we want to achieve. I paraphrase that, Ibrahim. I hope that's okay. So yes, I agree. And this self-talk thing is a habit. And I know I've spoken of this before, but when we think, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have all these things I have to do, there's a sense of being at the effect of rather than being at choice. And so even transforming the way that we perceive the things we want to get done, instead of I have to do this, we could say I get to do this. Like there's an opportunity here. And there's always an opportunity. And so if we get to do this, then there's sort of an anticipation rather than feeling subject to. There's an anticipation about, oh, I get to do this and I get to do that. And maybe I get to put this thing off until another time because it's not as important. And so what are the tricks here? One is deep breathing. Second is one step in front of another, being present, choosing the most important thing, the highest priority, putting your focus on that, and then doing the next thing and the next thing. The pressure is a result of trying to hold so many things in our awareness and in our action all at once that we end up doing less. And that's why the first caution is to stop. And then the third recommendation here is to look at our languaging, and instead of I have to do this, I have to do that, I get to do this. And then if you're feeling really inspired, you can go step into the next phase, which is I am blessed to do this. Like it's a gift to me that I get to do this. And that also just shifts the internal experience so profoundly. Now, there's another kind of pressure I want to speak about, because I've seen a lot of social pressures. And right now, as we're going through so many social changes, and we're dealing with social environments and political environments and family environments, and it might feel like there's all this pressure to perform and to be this kind of person, or to think this way, or to do these kinds of actions, or to just show up in a way that may or may not be in alignment with who you believe yourselves to be, or who we believe ourselves to be. And so in thinking about this idea of pressure, I actually had someone say to me recently that they felt pressured by me into a certain decision, and it was really, really, really clear to me that I had never exerted any particular pressure. In fact, I didn't even have the intention that they do something that they thought I was pressuring them for. So what we get to do is understand that when we feel pressured, it's arising from within, at least in some capacity. Even if somebody is saying, hey, you really should do this, I really want you to do this, could you please do this? It's, if we are clear within about our own path, then we're not subject to the influence of external forces. And so what I mean by that is, in this situation, let's say I'm really clear that I am not going to do I'm not going to participate in a certain event. And I'm clear about it, and I'm good with my decision, and I don't have any defensiveness about it. It's just really, really clear for me. And somebody says to me, hey, you really should do this, I want you to do this. And as long as I'm really clear about it, I don't have to be defensive. I don't have to feel pressured, because I'm whole and complete in my own awareness. And when we have that inner alignment, when we have that inner clarity, we don't have to experience pressure, regardless of how much intention is exerted from outside of ourselves to influence us. So when we feel pressured, it is a signal that we can receive within ourselves that indicates, hey, maybe I'm not fully aligned with this. Maybe I'm defensive about my decision. Maybe I'm not really as clear about this as I would like to be. And therefore, when somebody tells me I should do this, I should do that, I get reactive, because I'm not as whole and complete internally. So my response is to push away. And Ibrahim says, thank you for sharing your light and wisdom. Ibrahim, thank you. That's very kind, and I'm really glad that you're here to join us, as I am for everybody else who's joining in these musings and conversations. So, yeah, this is really an important thing to understand about the experience of pressure, because somebody can be strongly suggesting something to you and wanting you to do something, and the pressure piece is really internal. Like, it doesn't exist outside of ourselves. It's something that we manufacture. And when we allow ourselves to take responsibility for our experience of being pressured, we can't blame somebody else for pressuring us. That when we recognize that, then we empower ourselves, rather than becoming victims of someone else pressuring us to do something. There's a lot of social pressure. There's a lot of the pressure doesn't exist except within. There's an outside influence and we get to receive it or respond to it in a place of wholeness and strength rather than force. So wholeness and clarity, and from that clarity we gain strength. And so why is it important now? It's important now because we have so many issues culturally and globally that we're all addressing together, and there are so many polarities in belief and perception and experience, and it's so important for us again and again and again to touch into our own alignment, our own sovereignty, and our own courage to think freely and to choose consciously and in alignment with our own values and our own priorities. So the invitation here is to be generous with yourself, to be good to yourself, to check in and be in alignment regarding pressures that you're experiencing. Notice what you've received as your obligations and responsibilities, and notice whether they really all need to be honored in the same way, and if they really do have the importance that you've given them. And if so, prioritize them, quiet yourself, allow yourself to be present, slow down and stop the frenzied inner conversation. And good morning, Annette. Welcome. So glad to have you here. So inner pressure, realize we are creating it. Look at the mechanism that we're using to create it. Reprioritize, become present, and slow down. And in slowing down, you'll find yourself to be much better able to accomplish the things that you're looking to accomplish. And external pressures, realize that if you're feeling pressured, there's something in you that is conflicting. In other words, maybe I'm feeling pressured to go to a family gathering even though I really don't want to, and I'm feeling pressured because of how people will think of me if I don't go. So this is just an example. And so what we get to look at to be able to be in alignment and not feel the pressure, but rather to feel at choice, is to look at what our priorities are. So is it my priority to not attend that event and do something else, which will potentially engender consequences with the people that want me to join them for the gathering? Or is it more important to me to keep the peace and go to this gathering that I originally prefer not to go to? So the thing is that we get to look very consciously at our preferences and choose. So this is where the pressure gets relieved in this kind of circumstance, is by actively asserting our own right to choose. So if I choose not to go, I need to choose not to go, recognizing the consequences that people might be angry with me for not attending or whatever, and to allow that that's their feeling, they're entitled to it, and I'm going to allow that. Or I can choose to say, you know what, I am going to attend this event because I don't want those consequences, and then allow myself to actually choose to be there, not as a victim, not because I had to, but because I'm choosing to, because I am electing to, that I am making a conscious decision. And when I choose to be there, I choose to be there fully, not as somebody who has been manipulated into being there, because ultimately I chose. I chose to, I chose this path over the other path. And it may oftentimes be that we choose between two paths that are both not delightful paths. But choosing the path shifts the experience. It shifts the experience of pressure, and it shifts the experience of victimhood. Good morning, good morning, Isabel. Welcome, and Annette. It's Annette. I already said hi to you, and Isabel. It's great to have you back again. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you to everybody else. So we're just talking about pressure, internal pressure, self-imposed pressure, externally imposed pressure, and how to interact with circumstances. It all always comes down to choice and recognizing our sovereignty and our right and responsibility to choose in order to free ourselves from a pattern of victimhood. Victim to ourselves, victim to what we perceive as pressure and influence of others, etc. So, in every moment, at the very least, we get to choose how we're going to feel, how we're going to respond, how we're going to interact, and being able to manage this whole experience of and concept of pressure is a really, really, really important thing in terms of cultivating a richer quality of life and experience and freedom. So, with that, I'm going to wrap it up for today and for. Oh, Isabel says she needs to hear this. You know what, Isabel? I think so many of us feel pressure and put pressure on ourselves to perform in a certain way, to accomplish certain things. And the truth is, when we do that, we sacrifice the experience of our lives, of actually living. And this goes back around to the conversation about being a human being rather than a human doing. And that the most important thing is the experience of life as a process rather than a product. So it's not so much what we do, but how we be in the process of whatever that doing is. And coming to choice, operating from alignment and presence is what transforms the entire experience of our lives, even if we're going through difficult times, and maybe especially if we're going through difficult times, we get to come back to our sovereignty and empowering ourselves to choose the quality of the life that we're living as we're living it. So thank you to everyone. So much love and compassion to all of you. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection. I'm here every weekday morning at 9 a.m. And this on Enlightened World Network. I invite you to please check out the extraordinary programming here. And this weekend there are all kinds of wonderful opportunities for connecting and uplifting your spirit. And Isabel says she just realized that at 56 years old that we get to make our lives the way that we choose to make them. Thank you, Dido, and thank everybody, and so much love to you. Have a wonderful weekend, and release yourself from the pressure. Just allow yourself to be present to your choice, and choose joyfully. with that, lots of love. Hope to see you next week.